Hello. Let's check the line. Yep, looks like it. But I'm gonna do the last check. Bam, 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 bam. Let's, yep, looks like it. let's let's go. Need to mute it. How's everyone doing today? I'm back. I actually did a little bit of work outside, a very tiny bit before I went to the gym. Um, but I'm back. So yesterday we ran into some little minor issue because I was also a little bit tired. I'm gonna show you what I did as I stream. But first, let's run the test. Let's run generate. Snow time. Yeah. 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 So you're gonna see that it's failing, and the file name is not rhyming. It's not what we're expecting. I'll show you why, and I'll explain to you why. So you see what we're dealing with. But yep, let me show you why that's happening. So basically, we run the init migration. If I can, let's go down here. The test is failing right here. On line 640. So let's check that out. 640 right here. So I just added it actually, and I can show you why I did. So it's failing here because as you can see, we're expecting the latest file name to be migration init. So if I actually 640, let's go here. So what happens first is we initialize. When you initialize, you run that. What happens is it's gonna generate the initial migration files the first time, right? And the idea is that you have to initialize before you can run your migration. And the purpose of this is that when you initialize your migration, that's the point where you're gonna define the type of migration you're doing. If it's gonna be one way or two ways. Basically, one way is up only, like stonks. Then two way is bi-directional. It means you can actually revert your migrations, right? And the idea behind this is that if we can pay the little upfront cost, we wouldn't even call it upfront cost of initializing to define that ahead of time. It means subsequently when we're running generate, cargo generate, whatever, we don't have to specify the type of migration if it's one way or two way. We just run it and it's able to automatically detect what kind of migration it is. So anyway, you initialize, you generate, right? And this time around, we are actually telling it to run. So when it generates the migration, it runs it against the database. So the first time we have one migration, and we've also registered that migration in the database. So we have one migration metadata in the database. Then when we run generate for the first time, generate first, let's call this first, right? We run that, we change, we have resources v2. This time we're expecting that the migration count will be 2, and that means the files, then also the ones registered in the database will also be 2. In addition to that, we're expecting that the latest migration would be migration gen 1 after, because before we run that command, we're actually saying that this is the migration name, right? And when it normalizes that, we're expecting it to be in a snake case format. As you can see, I believe we should have that for init. So init is the first. We set that as we do migration init, and it normalizes that this passes. We have migration init here. However, this is failing because it's still getting migration init. And the reason is, if you notice, when we go to test config, let's go to test config, right here we are actually setting db if none. So what happens, we set up db from the migrator. And what is set up db? Oh, this is messed up. So basically it's setup db is different. Setup login, and it does setup, and setup is it checks if the connection, the db connection has been set. If it hasn't been set up, then it sets it up. All right. So when we come here, we set up the connection, which means when you go to the migrator, the migrator db connection, and we set it up, the db connection is going to be set to from none to some. Let's check. My code navigation is so messed up. So this is the db connection essentially, and if you check, I believe db connection, it's optional. So the when you do setup, the first time it's gonna set it because it's gonna be none. Subsequently, it's not gonna set it up because it's gonna be current and present. So here basically it's gonna set that field db connection, right? Then if it's none, it's gonna set this. Basically, we are copying the db connection into this test config class. But the problem with that is, right, when we go to this setup db if none, the way it's being used right here on this line, we initialize. This is for generate command, right? And we basically set up all the configuration, and we pass the migrator instance. We pass it in here, right? And we do the same thing for init command. So when you initialize, it's gonna call this setup db if none. So it's gonna do setup, set the db connection for the migrator. I Donatello Sneasel. I'm making a database tooling in Rust. Right now I'm supporting a graph database called SurrealORM, but the plan is to support as much databases as possible. So I'm planning to support SQL, NoSQL, graph databases, others in the future. But I'm building the API out, and I'm almost done with this. And it's written in Rust. How are you doing today? Welcome, and thanks for joining the stream. I think this is the first time you're probably at least chatting in the stream. How are you doing today? And where are you chatting from? So we do the setup. For the first time, it's going to be the init command. So it's going to set the db connection for the init command. And then that first time also, for the test config, the db is going to be none. So it's going to set that from the init command, basically, which is the migrator in this case. But when we do this the second time with generate command, it's going to do the same thing, set up db for the generate command instance, which is generate command is the migrator also. However, this is not none anymore, and it's not going to pass the connection from the migrator init generate command for the test config instance. It means now we actually have two separate instances of the database. So the second time we're trying to do the assertion to check for the db, we are only checking for the init command because we didn't successfully transfer from the init command to generate. Like, we're not sharing the same db connection. So the more appropriate way would be to check the db. I think we could probably just, let's check the db here, and when it's present, let's just do that first. Then none, we can set up override. Italy, oh, how are you doing? How is Italy today? Me snooping once in a while. Oh, thanks, I appreciate the snooping. Italiano, Oriente. How's Italy? Where in Italy are you? I appreciate the snoop. So essentially what's happening here now is we check the db when it's current. Firenze. I have never been there, never heard of it. Italy is also one of the places I need to visit soon. Do you work with Rust? What got you interested in Rust? And how did you find my channel? So what we can do is once the migrator DB, once the test config DB is set already, we can just do set DB and pass this database instance. Basically this. Let's see, we can probably just do a little bit of cloning there, and this override we can if it exists we can do that, and maybe we don't even need to put this in a separate function. So if we have that already, we set if this has been set for the test config, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the migrator itself. In this case, the second time is gonna be generate command, and we're gonna set the database instance for generate command to the current test config. Otherwise, if it doesn't exist, then we're gonna set up the migrator, right, which we instantiate the database for it, and then we're gonna take the DB instance from the migrator and set it to the test config. So if you run this now, let's see what we get. We know what we need. So now it's expecting 3 on line 666. That sounds interesting. And the reason I added this line is so that if we don't have this line, right, it's going to be only giving us from the function location. In this case, it's going to be 201, and we won't be able to debug properly. So we'll be only seeing the error here. But I wanted us to know exactly where the error is coming from our caller location. So as you can see here, it's expecting that the DB count will be 3, but so I should probably rename this as expected DB make count. Then should expected make files count. Yep. Then this can be expected migration base name, and yep, that is it. So if we run the next one, this should fail also because it should be 4, because when you run generate the third time after initializing, then yeah, let's update the snapshot. The third time should expect 4. So as you can see, we're saying 0, but it's expecting 4. So let's do that. Let's see. Nah, yeah. This is. Yep. So now that solves that issue. And yep. So this we're not running, so it's okay. So we can start to see, like, can we abstract some stuff here? Doesn't make sense. Overly abstracting sometimes can make it difficult to work with your code, and that's why I try to be a little bit careful when abstracting. So make existing. Existing gen test. Yep. All right. So I mean, we could think, do we want to abstract anything? If we're going to abstract, the things that are going to change are going to be, I mean, it might reduce the flexibility a little bit, but the things that are going to change, whether or not it's reversible. So let's list them out. We can call the first one, so the params. I'll go random recommendation from YouTube about one of your videos. Oh, that's cool. Thank you, YouTube, and thanks for taking the chance. Any reason why I chose Rust? That's a good question. I chose Rust because, well, having used about 9 languages professionally, they all had shortcomings that always made me want like more. I always wanted more. Like when I was using TypeScript, and I couldn't do like CPU intensive applications or tools. Like I couldn't do number crunching, and also the type system is weak. The build system is so very fragmented. The tooling, the ecosystem is heavily fragmented. When I wrote my when I would write my TypeScript code and come back to it, I would almost be panicking that I was gonna break. And Java, I like Java, a little bit verbose then, but it's getting better. But I actually like Java. But then there is JVM, Java Virtual Machine. You still need to deal with garbage collection in Java. That was a turn off for me, and it means I would have to sacrifice. I couldn't write embedded software in Java. I couldn't write performance database in Java or like low level tools, the infrastructure tools. I didn't, and also if I'm gonna run my Java software in a container, maybe it's gonna be costing me 1 GB of memory, and for the same performance, I could probably be running a 10 MB Rust application that would significantly outperform the Java application. It's a win-win for me. And also Python. Python has the interpreter problem, also the type problem. Pip, poetry, Python tooling also are very, very frustrating to work with. You also need to use pipeenv or virtualenv before you can run anything meaningful. Um, the testing tooling could be better. You couldn't do like the typing system is also weak. It's been shown. I know there are also tools and language servers like Pylance and MyPy and things to do some typing now. Yeah, so every language, Elixir was good, but Elixir had really, really bad tooling. It's like working with Elixir is like working on a eggshell, because anything can break anytime. You don't have good tooling language server for it, at least back then. Um, then Golang also was good, but the error handling, it didn't have generics, and also it also has a garbage collector. So that's part of it. But Go is a nice language. Then what else? Ruby has the same problem as Python. I use Ruby also. R is mainly for data science. C# is just like Java. So basically, each and every one of them had some kind of like shortcomings. Haskell, nobody uses Haskell. I'm talking about the community now. So what other language? Yeah. So they always have some kind of shortcoming, and I felt like, okay, Rust is the best for me to make as my foundational language, since I can do pretty much anything. I can, in theory. Maybe it might require a little bit of effort, and I thought, like, rather than waiting for things to be built, why don't I build them myself? And that was why I started building all this open source. C++, you have to manage the memory yourself. C has the same problem, and C++ has built up a lot of craft over the years. So you might be writing the same C++ in almost three different dialects. So it's very difficult to work with, and it's easy to shoot yourself in the foot, because you have all the memory issues, use after free, double free, and just having null pointer issues. So that was the reason I didn't use C++ or Golang. And Rust just doesn't have all those issues, and Rust has been fun for me to work with, and it was like one of the first languages that I used that actually felt like it had something new to offer. So one of the things is reversible. Or what do you think? Run. Yeah. Migration business. Basically everything there. Well, we can reuse the migration there. The only thing that's gonna change probably is what languages have you been working with? Would be expect, yeah, what we expect. So okay, what we can do is first in it. I'm thinking if I should abstract this, if it's even worth it. And I don't know. It's looking like it's not really worth it as much as one might think, and it might just be easier to just copy paste, because I would end up using this. I don't think it's worth it. Yeah, because at the end of the day, most of the tests are just configurational. You look at them. Yeah. So we have, what scenarios have we tested now? Let's check. Maybe let's do the first one. We test two ways can get. I'm actually looking at creating a macro that can let me write the tests, like something I could do. Tests to, maybe I can even write in string to, we can generate, something more. I think I'm gonna just buy the bullets right away now. Can I use macro rules? Let's see. Test name. So that's gonna take string, take like an expression, or and I probably want to create it elsewhere anyway. So let's see, where's the right place? Should I use proper macro helpers? So let's see, do I have code there? Yep, I do. What about paste? No. Let's see if it makes sense to have this here, but anyway, we do paste. I'm looking at the, I don't want to get overly distracted though. I'm pretty sure I used it in many of the functions. So let's see one of them here. Let's check the queue. Probably have it here. Yep. it would be much easier to use procedural macro. But I want to use declarative macro for that, and this should probably just be standard convert into probably this, yeah. Yep. What else? What else? And these, I know I should do that. Yep, 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 yep. Okay, that may be unnecessary because I'm already importing everything, so it's okay. But it might be better to just coordinate it fully like that. I don't know. So we could probably take, let's close that. My editor has been messing up. Let's close everything else. You know what? I'm just gonna save this. I mean, technically I can do, but that's not gonna fly. I could use idents, then it's not gonna allow you. Well, technically it's not allowing us to do that anyway. We could do let's say word. It's been a minute since I wrote a macro. It's coming. Hello? Was online? Yeah, was. Who? Hey, what's up now? Yep, let's stash this to actually let's stash everything and call it good macro to generate test name in mass. Oh, that was just a stash. Really don't need this override. Generate doesn't actually need this. And it does. So where after generate, we probably should go to up and down, then reset. Yeah. So this one we cannot generate without init. GB so option. Cargo init start review. So with db run strict, so when we run So the next scenario, we do a database run, but we are generating. Oh, so 0, 0, 0, or zeros. We're not running, but we're initializing. So first time, one file generated because it's one way. Second time we generate 2, and third time 3, 4 without expected db count incrementing. So yep, these we actually run. So we're saying run db run as true, and we need, and after initializing, we're saying it should run against the database, and that gives us 1 against the database. Second time 2, 2, and the names also match with this, right? The third time, same thing, the names match. The fourth is, if there is, 4, 4, and the names also match. So we can probably collapse that. So this is two-way without generation or zeros. Looks good. Collapse that. Two-way after initializing. The first time we're getting 2 on line 14. So that looks good. Second time we're getting 4, 6, and 8. And that looks good. Let's collapse that. Oh yes, so we have more scenarios. These are like old ways, so that's why I just remove them all. So what we essentially want to do now is we want to have, so this is two-way after initializing. We already have two-way without initializing. What we want now is we want two-way with initialization and also with run strict, right? So basically we have this first two without with run without init, without init. Also we should have two-way without init with db run. So basically something like this. So we initialize, I mean we don't initialize, but we set run as true. I think that can also be a thing. And yeah, we set that to two-way, and the way we do that is to say reversible is true. So anyway, other than that, every other stuff should probably stay the same. 0 0 0 0 0 0. So yep. So this should give us 0. Then another scenario we have is two-way but with db run, and that should give us so reversible is gonna be true. That's the first one. Then run is also gonna be true. So reversible is true, run is true. In that case, we should be expecting 2 2s. Or do we have that already? No, we haven't. So let's run the test actually. I will still look at the possibility of abstracting some things away, because the repetition is seeming a bit too much. Yep, this is expecting 2 on line 204. That's happening on 89. Search follow directory. Invalid migration name init down. First, that's not really a valid. Yep, but let's look. Migration init. First, they should both be 2. Oh, was that 96? Yep. So yep, the reason is because we only store the up migration, we don't store the down migration. Like we just store, for every migration we store one record in the database, so that should be one. That's right. And these should be 4, 2, yeah. And this should be 6, 6, 3. This should be 8, 4. Eight, 9. Migration file not found. Okay, why isn't it found? Aren't we doing two-way there? That's one reason that comes to mind. Hello? Yeah, you can. I'm doing great. I'm doing wonderful. How about you? Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So did I get correctly that it's an insurance offer? Accidental death insurance offer. no cost to me. So what's the eating cost? What would be the eating cost for me? The terms and condition. The terms and conditions. Yeah. Okay. 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 Yeah. Okay. Right now, 10 to 12 minutes. I'm not sure I'll be able to do it now because I'm live on stream. I'm streaming, and yeah, that would disrupt my work a little bit. Yeah, sounds good to me. I appreciate you for coming. You too. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye. So what happened there, in case you didn't catch that, because I was on call, was we were getting an error that the file couldn't be found, and the reason is, I need to show you. The reason that was happening was that let's go to the bottom. Here we're saying confirm empty migration gen should be false. It should actually be, a better name for that would be allow empty migration gen. That would be a more appropriate name. So if we allow that, it's going to generate empty migration even though there may not be changes, otherwise it won't. So in that case, it was previously false, so we weren't generating the file, and because of that it couldn't find the file. So see, I probably need to change my printer. My editor is really being unpleasant. Yeah. Yep. So I mean, there are more scenarios we could test, like raw, no raw, and things like that, and also raw, no raw, and if we should allow empty migrations or not. But then I think at the end of the day, we're gonna be using almost all these things anyway. So here we can maybe test disallow empty migration gen. So after we initialize, we use resource v1, which should mean no changes. So we just use v1 alone. For this we do v1 the first time, no changes. The second time we can use v2, and this we can use v2. So here in the first place should expect to file blah blah blah. Here if we disallow, this should remain 2.1. It should remain 2.1. So let's test that. And let's be sure we save the so let's run there. Yep, so the latest here should still remain the first, because no new migration should be generated. The latest should still remain the first. Yeah, it should still fail here because this should remain 2 and 1. Yep, it's expecting on line 1125. It's expecting. Oh, that was a mistake. I actually don't want that plugin installed, so I'll probably uninstall it again. But it's a rogue plugin. So this should remain 2, and let's run it. Actually it's complaining with this first. Let's see, it's expecting 1 because nothing should have been created, right? So let's run it again. It should still fail because this should still remain 2 because there are no divs, and we told it not to generate new or no div. So this is gonna fail again. Yeah, it's expecting 2, and this should remain. But now when we're generating, we're using v2, so this should now be 4, and this should be 2. Yep, and the latest here should be gen 2 still. So let's run that. So we are probably trying to read a file that doesn't exist. Similarly, here it should remain 2. and it should remain 4 because we're still using v2 here also, and the latest here should still be 3. So let's run that. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, so it must have already been named. It's actually nice to have to test that scenario. That's because we're trying to rename it twice. Basically, resource v2, the resources v2 does that. I can show you here. So this involves renaming of some fields. As you can see, we're using these attributes. That's why it's complaining. So what we can actually do is that's a different thing to test, um, which is cool actually. So let's first remove this because on third initialization, we must have done that renaming, and we wouldn't be able to rename it again. It's trying to access that file, but it doesn't exist, right? Because this is not meant to actually. And you know what? I'm gonna go. Yep. So let's go back here. Let's run this again. That's probably happening because we are trying to read a file that doesn't exist. No such file or directory. Yep, no such file or directory because it shouldn't be generated here. But I want to see. What's that? Yeah, we're trying to read. Does it say field to parse file name? Nope. It's happening in, let's say, so probably already happening here. That's right. Oh yeah, this is V2, so it should change. There's something flaky there. I license what plugins do you use to show that breadcrumbs below the tab? Let me see. How are you doing today? Thanks for joining in. Below the tab, I have no idea. I'm just using the distro, honestly. I've forgotten like which plugins do which, but I can probably find it out. I've forgotten actually. Yeah. So you're talking about this, right? And my brain is slow this evening. Oh, what plugin is that? I honestly I can maybe let me see if I can check it for you. I've totally forgotten how this plugin is. Probably some tab. Let me see if I can check with breadcrumbs. So I think that actually comes by default with the distro that I'm using, which is Astro. As you can see, certain breadcrumbs here. Using this for the breadcrumbs. So it was done by this. I'm wondering if this was actually built by the distro that I'm using. Yeah. So it's from the distro. Yep. I'm sure you might find some plugins to handle that. I don't think it's an external plugin handling it here. Okay, yeah, so this field this time can't find migration in it. So this is flaky. I might have to find out why. I hope it's not a time resolution thing now. I don't think so. Maybe it could be some async stuff. That's why it can be quite tricky to test things like this, especially when you're trying to do a proper integration test. Why do I even need to put test? Should honey be same in twice? Yep, so a lot of flakiness. Migrations not being found. I need to figure that out. Can you use the version? We have a lot of asynchronous stuff. Okay, so probably this is trying to run before generating. C sharp or Rust, which is better? I know people like to give it depends, but Rust is way better. Um, of course, it depends. What are you working on? Um, what's the ecosystem like? What tooling? Um, are you? What location are you working in? Enterprise world or not? And all those things. What kind of tooling? But if you're going to look at it objectively, without constraint, um, Rust is more capable. So don't let me say better. Rust is more capable. It's more um, complex to learn because a lot the surface area is large, right? You can do almost anything you can think of. You can do embedded system. You can write a um, web app with it and mobile. You can do almost anything you can imagine. I know people say, "Oh, you can do the same in Python." You can, but I mean, realistically, you're not gonna write a performant language, a performant game engine in Python. Surely you can hook Python to C. You can FFI your way, but you might as well just write this stuff in C. And the same with JavaScript. So in terms of what which is more capable, Rust is by far more capable because Rust doesn't use a virtual machine or a runtime. It doesn't have a run. It doesn't have a collector. It doesn't have a runtime. That's not 100% true. It has a runtime, but a very tiny runtime, and depends on what you're doing, right? Um, but what else? It's low level. Like they are also very different. I think the comparison is not fair because they are completely two different languages. C sharp is more high level, while Rust is more low level. C sharp has a garbage collector and a runtime. It needs a runtime. Rust has no garbage collector and it has no runtime or zero tiny runtime. So yeah. What else? I think that's the fundamental difference between the two. But of course, C sharp is probably still more popular. So if you want to get a job today, depending on your location, maybe if you're in US, maybe C sharp might still be a better bet. Um, but if you don't have any constraints, Rust will serve you better than C sharp. Rust is also much more performant than C sharp. You have to do a lot of computation, which is more expressive. For me, Rust is more expressive than C sharp. You can, for example, it's a lot easier to write a concurrent program in Rust than it is in C sharp. It's easier to do multi-threading in Rust because the type system basically prevents you from shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, you can still have deadlock situation, but it prevents you from accessing the a shared state across thread, a shared mutable state, because you have to lock it, and when you lock it, it gives you different types. Everything is like basically um, encapsulated within the type system. I'm sure you can probably do the same in C sharp, but they don't do it right now. So if you're gonna write multi-threaded language, Rust is also less prone to issue. You can even import. That makes things like Rayon possible. You can just basically import Rayon, which is a parallelism library. You import it and you can change your iterators from the single threaded version, like just iter to par iter. So because of that, for me, I would choose Rust anytime, any day. You can write a database engine in Rust. You can anything you can imagine, and it's going to be viable. Failed to run migration due to error. Migration not found. So it's possible that we are running. We're trying to run before generating. That's the only reason why this could happen. You're welcome, testing, and thanks for joining the stream. How are you doing today? Where are you chatting from? I think this is the first time you are in the chat on the channel. So I mean that's the problem when you're doing a lot of asynchronous stuff. How do we guarantee that this is done before we do this, right? And it's not even about when this is resolved, because generating is one thing, but being written to the disk is another thing, right? And even when this after this resolves, there is no guarantee that this doesn't run before that is written to the disk. So let's see. Maybe we can check if the directory exists before. Let's see if we can do that. If the thread and I mean, technically we can let generate migration return the migration vector of a migration, right? And we can do everything in memory. I think that's the only guaranteed way for us to mitigate things like that. But we gonna see. We gonna see. So we need to check that the file has been written. It's gonna be a bit hard for me. So that's the guaranteed way that when we generate, we return what we generate so that we can pass it directly back and run that. But yep. So basically, rather than trying to create a file here, we can just return. Yeah. So here we're returning the file that we're generating. But I feel like this generator would have been nice for generate to just return the file. think it's not even getting there. This is opening on. And generates. Probably improve the test name. Maybe we can wait arbitrarily for some time, or we can check if the file exists before proceed. should probably do for up and down and reset on time, and of course prune and list should be quite straightforward. Then we can come back and add more tests for like other edge cases. And because when we're writing other tests, we might find out more, we might discover new stuff, and we might want to change some stuff, so it's better to just move on to others, because I think I have decently sufficient amount of tests for this. And actually we did for init already. I can see us, for example, I can see us changing a lot of things with init, and you see my editor is messing up. I'm gonna check activity monitor. I need to close the left tabs. Yeah, I can already see how we can improve a bunch of things here. The way we're using the test config and all that. So I'm trying to scope the panic, so we're very sure it's panicking at the right point. There's no idea, so just run it 10 times and let's get a feeling. Or did that fail? Yeah. So I might have to actually change that a little bit. When you generate file, rather than the function doing the generation, I feel like the generate CLI should be doing it at the top level, so that whenever we need the generated file, that's what we actually should be returning. Um, we can be passing that down and out and use that. In this case, now we can use that in run, and that would be more like deterministic, since we are passing that. And we can, of course we can both generate and pass it, but mm, 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 mm. I think it would be much better to just return what's been generated instead. um, and then the generate CLI can take care of it. The generate CLI function can take care of it, and whenever we return, like, let me show you what I mean. So if you go here, rather than this actually doing the generation, I think it should be returning the file. Then we should we should do the generation here, and whatever file we return here, we can just pass it to run. And all run would do in that case would be to take whatever it's passed onto it, right? So you check get migrations and stuff. uh, yeah, so get migrations could alternative, we can just make it so that such that the user always has to run separately. Then that's going to simplify the whole thing, because this is just like a nice to have anyway. When you're developing, it's not going to be used in production and stuff, only when you're developing, just to like save you an extra step of doing separate run. But really think about it, how frequently do you generate migration files? Maybe not so much, besides the first time, like when you're starting your project. But once things stabilize a little bit, you're probably not doing it much. But I'll leave it, and I'll look at mechanisms. Maybe I can add an artificial delay between the generation and running. That's one strategy. Another strategy I could do is just periodically checking the migration directory that the files have been created, and only proceeding when you find a new file. And you timeout, you can have like 10 seconds timeout, for example. If you can't find the file, you can just you can panic. Yep, 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 yep. Yeah, I think it's better to just come back to that and rethink the approach. Probably just got that. Yeah, I think. So what test was panicking? This is the only test that seems to be flaky. Even the other one. But this is no DB run, so why does it fail? Huh. That's weird. Yep, so I think we can probably test for up and down. Then once we test for up and down, we test resets and prune. Then after that we test list. So we do up, and we do down, we do resets, we do prune, and we do list. Then we update the integration tests. After we update all the integration tests, we'll try to fix those couple of flakiness. I'll take a little break. While I'm taking a break, let me try to restart because my editor is slowing down. I don't want it to install the blank line, but yeah, it's pretty messed up. And also should probably update my Alacrity. Taking a short break. So what we can do is next we're gonna test up, then down, then reset, because there are a lot of like overlaps. When we're testing up, obviously we need to generate. We need to initialize before we can generate. So we're they are completely different stuff. We've tested initialization and generation, so maybe not necessary to over complicate things and just write a function that initializes and generates a bunch of migrations both from one way and two way, and then try the different up mechanisms, like we can do the default, which is gonna run to up the latest. Then we can do explicit up to latest. Then we can do up until a specific migration ID. Then we can also do by number, like delta basically. One thing I didn't actually check is, we probably need to check if you put in a negative number. Maybe we should disallow it, or that should then do reversal. But probably it's easier to disallow since we have down migration. So then we are gonna test. You put in a number, is it gonna update up to that number? So for example, if you put in 0, you probably shouldn't update anything. If you put in 1, you should update it to the next one. If you put in 2, to the next 2. Then we'll do the ID and we'll do latest. Similarly, we'll do for down. But for us to be able to do for down, we not only need to do initialization and generation, we also need to do up. So maybe we initialize, we generate like 10 migrations, we push up to like 10, and then we try to revert with the different reversal approaches. When we're done with that, we do a resetting. So we generate and apply a bunch of migrations, run reset, and make sure we're starting with a clean slate with the new migration name specified. And all these we have to do for both one-way and two-way migrations. So I'm actually contemplating if I should take a little break and restart the stream for up migration. I think I might just do that. I think so. So I'm gonna end this stream and start a new one soon. But I would like to take a break, maybe grab something to eat. I love you guys. See you guys soon.